Welcome back to part 2 of this episode with Carmen. I hope you enjoyed part 1 and I hope you enjoy this one just as much. Here we go with part 2. I have this frame that I've kind of created around this, that we're all kind of climbing a mountain and you're going to trip at certain times, you're going to stumble, and you've got to decide whether you keep going. And I don't think you ever reach the top of the mountain, but maybe there's some clouds halfway up and you just want to get above the clouds.
Yeah.
You know, just so the view gets a little bit better.
Yeah.
And we're all waiting to get above the clouds and then we'll see what's next. And maybe there's another layer of clouds or maybe it's smooth sailing. But in my head, it's like every time something goes wrong, it's like, okay, I'm just climbing this mountain and I tripped over a rock. I just get up and keep going. And if I break my leg, then maybe I'll go back down and stop, you know, but hopefully I don't break my leg and I can just keep climbing.
Yeah.
And I kind of heard someone say something similar on another podcast. And I really took that to heart. I'm like, okay, this is a really nice way to look at it.
Yeah, I like that image.
You know, something goes wrong and you just sit back and remind yourself. It's like there are many paths to the top. If I take the wrong one, I can take a couple of steps back and go up another one.
Yeah, I think well, I like that image of climbing the mountain. And I think it's really... it ties to sport in general. I go to the gym 4 times a week. And it just, well, it helps me clear my head and like from a mental health and physical health standpoint, I think we don't have to prove anything. We know that it's great for your body and your mind, but also for your mindset. I think I don't want to go to the gym 4 times a week, but I go to the gym 4 times a week. I don't ask myself, am I in the mood to go to the gym today? Usually not. Some days, yes, but usually not. Also, as a woman, your menstrual cycle, there are days you don't want to go, but you just push yourself and go. And the second I'm there, doing my workout, the magic happens and I empty my mind and I feel good. And afterwards I feel even better. And then I'm glad I made it. Or this weekend, I climbed the Twin Peaks hike.
Yeah.
Pretty challenging. So for the people who don't know, you basically have to climb up 1,200 steps. So it's very physically demanding. And through the steps, you're like, oh, and you don't see the top. You just see steps.
Yep.
Endlessly.
Yeah, all the way.
You see steps. Yeah. And it's exactly what you said. So what I did was, it was not the first time I did it. I was not even looking up. I was just looking at the next step instinctively. It was not something it was just the thing that helped me. I was listening to a podcast, to a story.
Yep.
And I was just looking at the next step, the next step, the next step. And then it's the last one.
Yeah.
And then you're at the top and you don't, I mean, you realize it because you're suffering a bit. But I think if I would have been looking at the top, well, trying to look at the top and be like, oh my God, when is this going to end? Then it would have been worse, like a bad experience. And when I was at the top, I felt so good that, I made it.
Yeah.
I feel good. I made it. My body made it. And in a mentally, positively mental state,
Yeah, it's a beautiful image. But you know what I think people need to do more often is just turn around and look back how far you've come.
Yeah, I did that too.
And don't always look at the top, but just look at where you were when you started and how far you've come. Because we forget that. And reminding yourself of that, I think, is the motivation sometimes to keep going.
Yeah.
That I've come so far. I mean, the top feels really far away, but so does the bottom, And there's a load of people still down there as well.
Yeah.
Yes, there's people at the top, but there's a lot of people down at the bottom as well. And I think that's a really nice way to frame it in your head.
Yeah.
That we've all come so far. You've done your podcast for what, 2 years now?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
2.5 years. If you listen to those first few episodes, how different is it from where you are today?
I should listen to episode 1. I haven't listened to it.
You don't want to, right? You don't.
I think part of me would like to,
Yeah.
just to realize
Yeah.
all the journey.
Yeah.
But about that image of climbing the steps, I would even add a layer to that. Is that, yes, you can look back and realize, wow, I've made it up until this point. But also, the top of the mountain, it's your objective, but it's also, I don't want to reach the top of the mountain because I want something to look forward to.
Yeah.
You know, and this is what also keeps me excited.
Yeah.
I think it's about finding the right balance. It's all about balance,
Everything's
which is
about balance.
difficult.
I agree.
But it's about having accomplished certain amount of things that make you feel legit and feel, accomplished. But also it's about wanting more, having more objectives to reach, to keep you excited.
I think the objectives change for a couple of reasons. One is that when you start, you don't see all the opportunities that start to open up as you go. Like, I never, ever saw the connection between the podcast and the business at the beginning. But the podcast has brought eyes to the business. The podcast has brought a network that is helping the business. The business has brought a network that's helping the podcast. And even as we start to grow within the business, we start to see opportunities that we never even imagined were going to come. I'm trying to think of an example, but
why have you started your podcast?
So there was never even an intention to have a podcast. So it's kind of interesting because this is what I mean by sort of the unintended outcomes. You know that this workspace, Banyan Workspace, was built largely to be a home for entrepreneurs to run their businesses from. And we've always tried to do everything that we can to support entrepreneurs, inspire them, motivate them, create a place that they can call home. And one of the things that we thought would be really interesting for our members and our sort of wider community was to host a panel of a few entrepreneurs sharing their stories. And so we did. We invited 3 entrepreneurs and we had a panel and we had an audience and we asked the entrepreneurs a few questions and they shared their experiences and people loved it. And we did 1 and we did 2. And then we arranged a 3rd one and someone said to us, I can't even remember who it was, but someone literally said to us, I can't make it. Are you going to record it?
Okay.
Because I would love to hear what these people have to say.
Okay.
And so we went to an electronics store and brought a couple of 3 clip-on mics, stuck them on, and we recorded it on an iPhone. We downloaded an app and we recorded it. And then we had the recording and we were sitting on a Monday meeting and I said, well, what are we going to do with the recording? And someone said, well, let's upload it to Spotify and then we can share the link.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's a podcast. And honestly, that is exactly how Entrepreneur Stories started. The first few episodes, we had those cheap mics. We had an iPhone. We didn't have any video. And it's just evolved from there. And now we're sitting here in this room with, we've got Wilson and his team, Monday Studios, doing this. We've got these professional mics. We've got big lights. And I never imagined this. In my wildest dreams, I never imagined hosting a podcast. And I just didn't think it was me, honestly. Someone had said to me years ago when we first founded Banyan that you should have a Banyan podcast. And I was like, don't be so silly. Why would I want a podcast? So I guess that's the perfect example. I said I was looking at for an example of something that we never
you have
intended,
one.
and that's it. That's the example. And now I love it. I love it because I get to dive into stories with amazing people that I learn so much from. And don't you learn so much from just researching your guests also?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only what they share. I mean, what they share is amazing, but part of that is also how you structure the conversation and frame the conversation, right? And that comes from your research. And when you have a good guest or someone that you're really excited to speak to, it's just amazing because you dive in and you have so many questions. And then I'm like, how do I keep this to 1 hour?
Yeah, same.
What are the best questions that I can ask?
Yeah.
Because I'm genuinely curious and I want to know, and I feel like that adds value to my audience.
I think we can feel that in your podcast, and I hope in mine too, that we are genuinely curious to learn from their stories. And I think it's so important to me to prepare each episode myself, to think about the questions, the angle, how to frame it. And I don't want my guests to just tell the same speech they tell to journalists when they do interviews, because this is not an interview. This is very different.
Yeah.
This is a different format. It's it's a conversation where you dig more into your struggles and your why as well. And I really want my guests to reflect on their journey. It's almost like an introspection. And when I see them thinking or digging into their memories, I'm like, yes, this is what I want.
We said it earlier when we were talking about, I see you. Like, I see what you're doing. And you have respect when you see someone doing things that you know is not easy, but it comes from the right place. And listening to ABO and watching your podcast grow, you wouldn't have been doing this for 2 years if you weren't genuinely curious.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Sure.
There's no way you could do it for 2 years if you weren't genuinely curious and weren't genuinely motivated. Because I'm sure the first few episodes didn't get many listens.
Yeah,
They don't. You put something out there and no one listens to it. Or you send it to a few family and friends and say, "What do you think?" And everyone says, "That was good."
Well, my mom, she doesn't understand much.
Yeah.
Well, she speaks English, but she can't understand like a proper conversation, like in-depth conversation. So, yeah, I didn't have many listens, but that was not the point.
That's not the point. It's because you're curious. It's because you enjoyed it. You learned something. You took something from it.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. That's starting at the bottom of the mountain, right? And then you take those steps and it grows and your followers grow and your listens grow and your curiosity grows and it changes. I'm sure the questions that you're asking now are far more insightful than the questions you were asking on your first podcast, because you don't just ask the same questions again and again.
Yeah.
And you start to dig deeper and think differently and your whole perspective changes. And it's something we haven't spoken about, but the personal growth that we go through on this journey, and I don't just mean the podcast, I mean the entrepreneur journey. The personal growth to me is like one of the most valuable things that I take from this, because my perspective is changing all the time.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't think it was when I was at corporate. Or if it was much more slow and much more subtle.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you're out there all the time. You're not in a bubble anymore. You're doing different things. You're meeting different people. The podcast kind of forces you to, but the business does too. And I'm sure you get people coming to you saying, "I'd love to be on your podcast," all the time, right? I'm sure you get like your LinkedIn inbox must be full of messages, right? Because everyone wants to tell their story.
Yeah.
And you do tend to go and look at who these people are and whether they have a great story and then decide whether you're going to have them on the podcast or not. But just that little thing means that you're getting exposed to someone who may be doing something that you're like, oh my God, that is such an incredible story or such an incredible thing this person is doing. And you would have had no idea before that.
Yeah.
I just love the whole personal growth thing because maybe it's because of my last few years of corporate, I just felt stagnant and I felt like I wasn't growing and I wasn't curious anymore. And so when you break out of that and then you feel it, it's kind of like, and I think that's what I see in everyone who's doing something like this, building something.
Yeah, I think it's really what keeps me so excited as well. And I'm in therapy also. And I think being a founder, plus seeing my therapist every 2 weeks, whoa, I grow so much. And everything we mentioned in this episode, it's about taking a step back, learn how to let go, not having to be right all the time. This is about growing, and I think I might say I'm pretty sure I'm a better human being now as a founder because I understand myself more. Yeah. So then understanding myself more means I can interact with people in a better way, understand them better, learning that my perspective is not the only one. It's a bit paradoxical because when you're a founder, it's your business, your thing. You are your own boss. So it could be something very about yourself, but actually it's really about learning to navigate this with other people.
I love that. I love the fact that you said that you become better, like a better human being through this journey.
Yeah,
because I really do believe that every interaction, every person who works with us, who works for us, you take something from them. And I also think that when you're on this journey, the content that you consume is different.
Yeah.
Because I feel the content you consume also helps you to grow, helps you to improve, helps you to be better. And there's this, it's kind of like a circle because you have a motivation to improve.
Yeah.
To improve your business, to improve the
way
you're
improve.
thinking, right? You have to keep
There's
improving.
no other way.
Right.
So you have no choice but just to improve.
Yep.
And I think it also something that I discussed this with my therapist. We were talking about loyalty. So may sound like I'm an old person, but I think in this era, like very digital era with social media, everything goes very fast. I think what matters is loyalty and consistency. So learning to, as we said, to love the challenge, etc., but also to do it over time, to struggle for years and continue.
Yeah.
And this is something many people would give up on. They would give up because it's too difficult, it's taking too long. But actually what it taught me, as when I said I'm a better human being, is also that I value this. I value consistency. I value people who, when they say something, they own up to their words. If they're promised something, they will respect that promise.
Yeah.
This is really something that I value, and I try myself to behave like that because I think it differentiates the reliable people from the others, whether it's in my personal life or in my business. I realized that this is really something important to me.
Yeah. We talked about building in public, and you just shared something there that my guess is you may not have been so open to sharing 3 or 4 years ago. So you kind of get comfortable sharing. and being open and transparent. And when you say loyalty, you mean sort of loyalty to what you're trying to build and what you're trying to achieve? Or to people?
Both.
Both, yeah.
So loyalty to your own business, what you're doing, to building consistently.
Yeah.
And loyal to your values and to what you promise to people as well. And I think, I was talking about this with my therapist because she was also saying that she sees a lot of patients that are not taking this seriously. And to me, if I start a therapy, I take it super seriously. It's something, you invest in. You don't spend money, you invest. This is how I see it.
Yeah.
And she was basically saying that she sees over the last years more and more people taking this like not super seriously, canceling all the time, last minute, or paying late, or things like that. And I think I'm not blaming these people, but I just think that it goes with this digital era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think when you meet a founder, they've gone through difficult times. They kept climbing the stairs even though it was difficult.
So a couple of things you said there really jumped out at me. One is, you said you invested in therapy, and I think that the best investment that we can make is investing in ourselves. And by investing in ourselves, we make ourselves better human beings, better business leaders. And there is no better investment. But for an investment to become profitable takes time.
Yes.
And I heard someone say the other day on another podcast that anything worth building takes a minimum of 10 years. Oh. And that was quite helpful for me, actually, in a way, just to take that and kind of internalize it a little bit. Because I can tell you that, just take one of my businesses in Vietnam, the first 4 or 5 years were a nightmare. And it was literally just trying to stay alive.
Okay.
For a lot of that time. Yes, there were ups and then there were some really bad downs and there was the pandemic and all of that. But
what kept you going then?
A belief that what we were doing would eventually pay off. Also a responsibility to the people.
Yeah.
That was another one. We had people that were relying on us for our livelihood. One of the things I'm absolutely most proud of on this entrepreneurial journey is that we paid everyone and did not let one person go during the pandemic, which was really difficult to do.
Yeah, I imagine.
It drained our resources massively. And it took us a long time to build back. I would say to you, the value of that was not clear to me at the time. But today, every single new person who joins that team in Vietnam hears that story from someone else on the team and feels like they're joining a good company.
That's a great story.
And it's one of those things that you kind of learn that you don't know the impact of what you're doing now. And you only really begin to realize it when you look back. Because you can't connect the dots all the time.
No.
At the moment. You can only connect them looking back. But the other thing you talked about, and it was kind of that struggle of going up the mountain, and the single biggest lesson that I have taken from speaking to maybe 25, 30 entrepreneurs, you've spoken to a lot more on ABO than I have, is some of them look super successful on the surface. Every single one of them went through some form of hell to get to where they are today.
Yeah. There's no shortcuts.
There's no shortcuts. And that is the thing that I think is most important that comes out of these discussions is that you constantly have to just keep going if you want to create something.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, and it's very easy for me to say, and maybe it's dangerous for me to say, but I think a lot of people give up too soon. And there can be reasons for that are out of your control, and I do understand that. But if you really believe in something, you have to play the long game. And when that guy said it takes 10 years to build something meaningful,
Makes sense.
it totally sort of made sense to me. If you'd said that to me in year 1, I would have been like, I'm going to do it in 2. I'm going to do it in 3.
Well, try.
But now if people ask me for advice, I'm like, it's going to take longer. It's going to be harder. You're going to learn so much. You're going to love it, but it's going to be damn hard.
Yeah, and that's also in my podcast. I really focus on that as well.
Yeah.
The reality of being a business owner, and as I said, there are no shortcuts. And I want really to fight this myth of the entrepreneur that is so successful and raised millions in a couple of years and then boom. This is not real. Or if this is real, it means they didn't start, the story they telling you doesn't start from the bottom.
Yeah.
It starts from, they are skipping the big chunk where they struggled.
Yeah.
So now I'm really aware of that. Because it can be frustrating and you may think, oh, she is so successful and look at me. But actually, this is not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is social media.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And social media is so dangerous for that reason, because we project an image of ourselves that may be real for 10 seconds. But it's yeah. What do you think we've missed that we haven't mentioned today?
Well, I have a question for you about since you are founder, how have your relationships with your kids changed? Has it changed?
I actually think I'm a better father and husband as a founder than I was when I was at corporate, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Probably because I know that ultimately I'm in control of what goes on around me. Whereas when I was working for someone else and there was office politics and there was a feeling that I wasn't maybe getting what I thought I deserved, it's very hard not to bring that home with you.
That's interesting that you say you're in control, because we would be tempted to think that when you're in corporate, you're in control because you know that your salary is going to come every month.
Yeah, and I guess that's the financial side of it. But there's a mental side of it as well. Like, am I being recognized for the work that I'm putting into this company? Am I getting what I feel I deserve versus what someone else is doing? And I think that always happens. And I think that one of the things that I have to remind myself of as a founder with a team is that my team are probably thinking similar things sometimes. And I guess I have more sympathy or empathy for my bosses before. Now that I have to make those decisions myself and ultimately the buck stops with me. But the question you asked about my kids is a really interesting one, because my kids are now 19 and 17. And in a weird way, I feel they need me more, or I can add more value to their lives now than I could when they were younger. So, for instance, my daughter was applying for her first job. And she'd never done, she had a CV, but she'd never really sent a CV to anyone. She didn't have a cover letter or anything that she drafted before. So she called me up and said, can you help me with this? My son was doing his business studies homework and was asking me about profit and loss accounts and how it works and, how I think about certain things. And I feel like we can have conversations around the dinner table now where I can add value to their lives by providing a little bit of perspective. That's harder when they were young. I don't know. It feels like when they hit a certain age, and maybe it's because of what I'm doing as well, that there's so many influences that I'm getting hit with, that there's so many things that are top of mind for me all the time that I like to share that with my kids. So I think the relationship has changed for the better.
That's great.
Honestly.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I would say the last couple of years of corporate, I was probably more stressed.
Yeah.
And that sometimes I brought that home.
Mm.
And that now I don't think I do. I'm busy and I can be distracted, but I'm not angry, frustrated.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just like sometimes look, guys, I need to just get some stuff done.
Yeah.
It's important. It needs to be done now.
Mm.
It could be approving payroll.
Mm.
Like, I got to approve payroll before 8 p.m. Otherwise, the bank will cancel the thing and has to all be redone again by finance tomorrow. And today's the payment date. It could be an important bill. It could anything. But yeah, I do feel like I'm a better father now.
Wow. Well, that's a great conclusion.
We'd have to ask my kids.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, it's, and being a founder, if that means being a better parent, better human being.
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's passion as well. I think when you come home passionate about something, it rubs off on people.
Mm. Probably.
In a good way.
Yeah.
Because like when you talk about your business, your podcast, you're passionate.
Yeah.
And you like talking about it. We all do.
Yeah.
That's why we kind of build in public sometimes. It's nice. It helps us. And I think other people see that.
Yeah, it's contagious.
It's contagious.
I think when you are, for example, at school.
Yeah.
And you have a teacher that is really passionate about what they're teaching, you're interested in what they're saying.
Yeah.
Way more than a teacher that just does the lesson, like boring lesson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have memories from when I was little, memories of like history teacher, passionate about history, and you could feel it.
Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Yeah. And you? When you go home, do you feel like you're energized at the moment? Do you feel passion? Do you feel that passion coming out?
I just feel it. I mean, I just feel it every day.
You feel it every day, yeah.
And obviously there are days that are boring or difficult, or there are days you just need to completely switch off and take a bath and just stop thinking. Obviously, not every day is perfect, but I think it just carries me every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's something here so deep that it carries me no matter what I do, no matter where I am or who I am with.
Yeah.
So it's not only that I bring it home, it's just that it's with me all the time.
I think that's amazing because I think, again, it comes down to if you're doing something that is inside you and drives you and that you're passionate about, that's where your positive energy is going to come from, and that's going to keep you going.
Yeah.
I think about the pillars. I think about those 5 pillars that people talk about that we have to have in our lives.
What are the 5 pillars?
So you've got your sort of social connections. You've got your mental health. You've got your physical health. You've got your financial. And then the 5th one would be your purpose.
Mm.
And I think when those things are aligned,
it's like the Maslow pyramid or something.
Yeah, there's something about that. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but I've had this discussion on the podcast and I think about it. I think about it a lot. I think about, am I passionate about what I do, and do I have purpose with what I do? And the answer to that right now is definitely yes. Both with the business and other things that I do. I'm on the board of a couple of NGOs, and I think about social connection. Definitely with my team, with my family. And I'm different from a lot of expats in Hong Kong because my family's here.
Mm.
So I actually don't have that many friends in Hong Kong because a lot of my time outside work is spent with family.
Mm.
Yeah. And then you've got your mental and your physical. We talked about, you said you go to the gym 4 times a week. That physical side of it's so important to me, but that also helps the mental side of it.
Mm.
You know?
Well, if you don't have the health, then you can't
Yeah.
have the rest.
Yeah.
So you gotta take care of yourself.
I feel like for me anyway, the mental side of it, if all the other 4 things are in balance, then the mental side kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
about the purpose, I think it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a hero. Your purpose doesn't have to be saving the world to be legit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because some people may be intimidated and feel like, oh yeah, but I don't really know what my purpose is. You don't need to have something crazy. Your purpose can simply be to help people speak up, tell their stories. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever you find in this journey feeds you, but it doesn't have to be a great purpose. You know what I mean?
Maybe we can end with this, but I think that sometimes we try to find a purpose, and you can spend your whole life looking for this thing that doesn't exist. Because I also think it's quite a Western thing to talk about it. I think in the East, your purpose is quite often your family. You go to work, you earn a good wage, you do your job, you do it well, you do what your boss tells you. But by doing that, you can provide a home for your kids and your family. You can provide food on the table. Your kids get to go to a good school. They get to be educated. And that's your purpose for a lot of these people. And that is totally fine. But I feel like in the West, we've kind of created this narrative that we all need this bigger purpose.
Yeah.
And I think it can be very, very dangerous. I really do. I think everyone's got to sort of look at themselves and say, what makes me happy? And what do I want to do that's good for me? Because one of the hardest things I think for us to sometimes accept is normally what's good for us is good for everyone else. Because if we're in a good place, we're going to be better humans, which is what you said earlier, right?
I think it can be tricky if finding a purpose defines who you are. I mean, if people think they're not enough if they don't have this big purpose, this can be harmful to them.
Absolutely.
So I would just say, whether your purpose is your family or your podcast or whatever, on top of that, I usually say, keep having fun.
Yeah. And
by that, I also mean keep your child's soul in a way. And I think this is so important to nurture. For example, when I walk and I notice a little flower here or this insect here or whatever, it's just a little thing as a child to be amazed by very small things or things that adults would be like, we don't care, we don't have time for this.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you're like amazed all the time by little things. And this mindset is so precious.
Yeah.
And I really try to nurture it.
Oh, I think that's a wonderful way to end it, though. It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful way to end it because kids don't look for purpose.
No. They're just happy because they see a bee on this flower. And that's
it. Exactly. I think that's been a really fun discussion. I really enjoyed that, Carmen.
Yeah, me too. I don't know how long we talked, but...
Well, we got the clock up there. I think it's been about an hour and 20 minutes, which is longer than I thought it would be, but that's amazing. Same. And I don't think I looked at my iPad too much either, which was kind of cool because I normally do and I was told I should stop. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for that. That was amazing. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah, maybe. Why not?
Thanks.
Thank you.